Hey everybody, welcome to our webinar. We used to do this all the time, Chris, every month.
All the time.
We used to
Oh,
be very
wow.
consistent with it. We used to do it consistently once a month. Then we got very busy and we stopped doing it. But the demand has been out there. So now we're doing it again.
We have a slower than usual day today.
Thank God, we have a very slow day in the clinic. It's unusual. We've been put on a screening hold by a sponsor because we're screening too much. And so we got some queries to resolve and we got some downtime, thankfully.
I don't know about thankfully, but we do have downtime.
We have downtime so we can do this webinar, and actually it worked out well that we're doing it today. So thank you to all who are on. I shared the slides that we're going to be presenting in the chat box, and if you are using your computer to attend this webinar, you can put your chats in the chat box. If not, I don't know if I can unmute people, but we're meeting attendee. No, I can't unmute people, so I think everyone's muted by default, but there is a chat option. So we're going to talk about marketing your site. Okay, there's a lot of sites out there. How many sites do you think exist in the United States, Chris? Just a rough estimate.
We did the math on this one time, and I don't remember what our conclusion was, but if I had to guess, 50,000?
Okay, this is like the McKinsey consulting. There's a big consulting company called McKinsey, and they hire Harvard grads, hire Harvard MBAs, and they're hired by these big corporation, Fortune 500s, to solve their problems. So one of the interview questions they ask every interviewee is how many tennis balls are manufactured in the United States every year. And they don't care about the answer. They care about your thought process for how you go about answering that. But in this case, I don't care about your thought process. I want the number, Chris. How many sites are in the United States?
I don't have a clue. I mean, again, I remember we figured this out a long time ago, but I don't remember what our conclusion was. So
50,000 is good. Now, from those 50,000, I think the top 20% have about 80% of the market share.
same with the money of the United States, right? Kind of works the same way.
Right.
So
well, that's even more.
The rich get richer, and
Yes.
everybody gets the leftovers.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of sites. Most of our audience are small startup sites, sites with sites that do 10 studies a year maybe or under.
Sure.
That's our core audience. These are the sites that tend to not market and promote. They don't know how to effectively promote their site to sponsors or CROs, or they don't have time to do it, right? Which neither should be a good excuse. And this webinar is going to talk about how research site can promote themselves better to sponsors. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm thinking, what exactly do you mean by promote? Because as far as I know, there's really only one way to promote your site. I mean, you can't run advertising for promote your site to a sponsor.
So here's what I mean by promote. There's three core customers that every research clinic, whether you know it or not, that's not important. There's three customers you have: patients, sponsors / CROs, and physicians, right? Even if you are a physician that owns the site, you do need other physicians to join your team.
Some eyes, maybe need a specialist for a study. Sure.
So those are your three customers, the three groups that you need to effectively market to. And it's done differently for each one.
Sure.
But it needs to be done, right?
I don't know.
And so the first thing I would do on your website is have a section for each group. So you can have 4 physicians, 4 sponsors, 4 patients. Most sites do this, but it's not as clear. They just assume that whoever you are, when you're looking at it, you're going to find the information that you need. But that doesn't happen that way because people have very short attention spans. First of all, you're lucky enough that they get to your website, And then if they don't find what they want in about 3 seconds, they're done.
Well,
3 seconds.
for one of our sites, our website, I think it's if you have comments, questions, or concerns, please, type here,
Right.
which encompasses all those three areas. So there's not a lot of searching necessary. It's all in one spot.
If you don't have a capture box on your website, you need to have one. So let's go through these slides. Okay, the first one, the importance of marketing. And there's a quote here. Amy did a good job on these slides. She put quotes on every single slide. I haven't even seen them yet.
Who's she quoting?
In this case, someone named Behshad Sheldon. I don't know who that is. We're going to Google it. So the public needs to know that without their participation, science can't advance. There isn't enough R&D out there. It requires participation and commitment to advance medical science. So basically what this person's saying, and I will Google him to find out who it is patient enrollment is an issue because awareness is not there.
Right? Always an issue.
So what do you think about that?
Huge issue for sponsors, huge issue for sites. I mean, sponsors are wasting money the longer it takes to enroll patients, and sites aren't getting paid if they're not enrolling patients. So yeah, absolutely. Biggest concern in research from all those involved.
As many as 1 in 5 trials, 15 to 20%, are unable to enroll a single patient.
I did not know that.
And never begin. Good job, Amy, for the slides. No.
20% never enroll one patient?
15 to 20% are unable to enroll a single patient and thus never begin.
That's amazing. You know how much money is wasted? 20%?
Yes.
It's millions, if not billions, of dollars.
So it's obviously an issue. So let's go to the next slide. So sales versus branding. Okay, the difference between branding and sales is simple. Are you trying to convert, or are you trying to create an experience for your stakeholder? So I'm trying to convert, but you convert by creating an experience, right? You need both sales and branding.
Sure.
Right? So you do need to convert, but in order to do that, you need to create an experience for them to get to your website or to get to your social network or to just interact with you anywhere. And when I say they, I mean patients, physicians, or sponsors.
So you need to brand yourself before you can convert.
Brand and sales important. So a clinical trial itself or a site can be seen as a brand. Successful branding of a clinical trial often includes a logo, colors, a trial acronym. So there's a lot of acronyms with these studies, weird acronyms, right? We're actually, as we start our CRO, get to come up with some acronyms, Chris.
Yeah, we've thought of a few already.
Care to share?
Maybe not appropriate, but
we're just having fun with the acronyms.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can get carried away with acronyms. So without explicit brand values, it's impossible to communicate a coherent and persuasive perception of a trial's promise, what the trial intends to deliver, etc. Now, if you're a site and you're listening or watching, because this is going to be up on YouTube later, and you don't necessarily need to market each specific study that you're doing, because then you need IRB approval, you need a whole bunch of other stuff. But let's say you have, or let's say your site specializes in schizophrenia studies or central nervous system disorder studies or OBGYN studies or gastro studies, right? Or maybe you don't even specialize in those. You just happen to have a lot of those studies right now, or even just one or two. Your job becomes not to promote those studies, but to promote that condition, talk about that condition, and then let the customer know, in this case the patient know, that your clinic specializes in these studies. Okay, now some IRBs will tell you, well, even then you need IRB approval. I think that's wrong. Regardless of what they tell you, I think it's wrong, because how can you prove which IRB has jurisdiction over that particular piece of advertising? You can't, because if you have 5 studies and 3 different IRBs, none of those IRBs are going to want to take responsibility for approving that ad.
Well, it depends. Are you promoting your site, or are you promoting the indication?
Say that again, Chris.
So are you promoting your site, or are you promoting the indication? So I think so long as you stay away from specifics, say you're doing a schizophrenia study, hey, and your ad does not contain something like, hey, we have a schizophrenia trial. If you have thus and thus condition associated with your schizophrenia, then come see us. Of course, the IRB is going to take issue with that. But if you more or less are just promoting your site, hey, we run studies in these different areas, and you list a bunch of different indications, I think you're fine.
Yep. And the sales versus branding thing applies to everyone. Okay. So, this is to bring it back to context. Okay. What you just said, if you are trying to directly convert a patient into one of your studies, to err on the side of caution, you probably need IRB approval for that message.
If it's very specific, yes, definitely.
If you're trying to brand your site and establish that you are leaders in that space, you don't. I say you don't.
Sure. And if you're just promoting your site and what studies you have available, and you could even say in your ad, if you have any of these indications, please contact us. You're not saying specifically, you're not pointing specifically to any given indication. You're just saying in general what indications you have. Now, if it's just one indication, you're doing one study at your site, this does not work for you. Mm-hmm. You need a multiple of studies of different indications, because the IRB is going to know.
Yep. So, social media, that's a way to build your brand, whether you're trying to attract physicians, patients, sponsors, or even if you're a job seeker out there, like someone that wants to be a CRA or someone that wants to be a trial master file specialist or anything. Okay, and we're actually rolling out some products. We're going to talk to you about it at the end of the webinar that might interest some of you. Okay. Yeah, definitely. So social media, the internet is healthcare's new front door, and it's been that way for about 10 years at least, if not 8.
I was going to say 5, but
okay. 5's good too. So some estimates have it that most individuals, 80% or higher, again, Amy did a great job with these slides, 80% or higher look online first for medical and healthcare information.
Oh, absolutely. How many people have Googled WebMD?
Say it again.
I said, absolutely. How many people have not Googled WebMD? Right?
Right.
My stomach feels upset and I have a headache. Let's look that up on WebMD. Everybody's done this. Most everybody.
Right. And this is one of the reasons our sites, we're really investing heavily into content marketing when it comes to attracting patients. With the Clinical Scoop, we're rolling out Alzheimer's TV. Finally, our videographer just interviewed her first interview with a medical liaison talking about Alzheimer's, aimed directly at patients. And guess what? We're going to throw some money behind that on Facebook and try to get some patients for some of our studies, right? So get on Facebook, get on Twitter, get on YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat. Now, your clinic doesn't need... MySpace is gone. MySpace is now Justin Timberlake. Like the entire above the fold is Justin Timberlake staring at you. You can check it out if you're curious. Maybe they changed it. Last time I checked, and Dora, my wife, was pissed when she went to MySpace 3 years ago because she uploaded all of our old photos on there. They're all gone. You can't get them. Yeah. So that's another point. Never rely too much on one platform, right? But if you're a research clinic, you don't need all these platforms. But if you're an individual, you probably already have all these platforms. But you do need to invest time and content into the one where you think your target audience is most likely to learn about your brand. So if it's patients, I think Instagram, I think YouTube, I think Twitter, I think Facebook are good. If you're trying to attract sponsors, you definitely need to get on LinkedIn. If you're trying to get jobs for yourself, you definitely need to get on LinkedIn. And then what's the other key opinion leader? Physicians. If physicians are on Instagram. There's a lot of physicians on Instagram. They even use hashtags. So in addition to the obvious advantage of reaching out and informing social media users, the proper messaging can foster patient engagement and commitment. Again, it's branding versus sales. Okay, so definitely have some kind of social media presence. Now, to attract sponsors, okay, there's different options. We literally, Chris and I, through our consulting company, talk to maybe 3 people a day who are seriously considering paying us to help them get studies for their site. And we always start with the same way. You can do this yourself. We will take your money if you want, because it is time intensive. We have an infrastructure that can handle getting studies for you, but you don't have to. You can do this yourself if you want. You may not be able to sleep at night. You may have to have your day job during the day. The last guy we talked to, CRA, right? Works probably 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., travels. If he wants to get his own studies, he can. He's going to have to do it in his downtime. He's going to have to do it at night. He's going to have to do it when he's not working. And it's just not scalable. Sometimes paying $1,000 a month is well worth it.
I think it's more than well worth it.
Now, what do you think about study brokers? That's another option.
Yeah, it is. And depending on the arrangement, I mean, it can be beneficial. I mean, while we had a bad experience with a study broker, it did open us up to an indication because, for example, say your PI has no background with a certain indication and you'd like to work your way into that indication. If a study broker comes to you with a study in that indication, now that can go on the PI CV, and now you can show that you've done research in this area. So that's one benefit, but they do charge typically more than what's fair, I would say.
Yeah, and I can have a whole webinar on why you should never use a study broker, but I will not get into it.
There's positives too, though.
There are positives. You're deferring risk until the back end, right?
Not only that, but like I just said, if you don't have any experience in an indication, they can readily sometimes get you experience, right? They can get you a study in that indication, which was the case with one of our PIs.
Yeah, that's good. Very good too.
So that is a good part of it, but again, that initial study, you're going to pay a lot of money to the broker typically.
Yeah, right. Which is why we created these products that are alternatives, that are maybe hybrid broker models or consultant models, but are not designed to screw the site. Right? We try to be fair. Clinicaltrials.gov, my favorite website probably in the entire world. While I'm in this industry. It is hyperbole, but look, if you are, I don't care who you are, clinicaltrials.gov is designed for patients, first of all, right? So yeah, it's designed so patients can find studies to participate in, patients can find study results of past studies, and for physicians who want to educate themselves more on past studies. And now that the FDA is mandating sponsors publish their data, even on trials that failed, which many are not compliant still, but that's another story. It's another topic. It's also now meant for sponsors to look at their competitors' study results. And we've used that for our CRO. As we're designing protocols, we've gone on there and we've looked at the synopsis of these, the IE criteria. We've looked at the results. And now they have algorithms that can do that too. One of our vendors uses artificial intelligence to help you create a protocol, right? But if you're a job seeker or if you're a site, you need to be on this. If you want studies and you want a job, or I should say if you want studies or you want a job, you need to be on this every day.
Unless you're paying us to do it for you.
But no one's paid us to find them a job.
No, I'm referring to studies only.
Oh, studies only, yeah. Right. Yeah, the options are, if you want studies in your research clinic and you're not happy with the current studies you have, the options are 3 options, right? You work with us, or with another competitor. You don't have to work with us, but I think we're the best. Work with someone like us. Do it yourself. Or don't do anything.
Go out of business, yeah.
Those are the 3 options. So clinicaltrials.gov, if there's no excuse, we even have interns coming into the clinic helping us out. Each time they have downtime, I have them spend an hour on clinicaltrials.gov. I taught them how to use it. I have videos on the clinicaltrialsguru.com. If you go to get more studies, there's hours of videos on there on how to use clinicaltrials.gov. You get an email pitch. You email 100 people a day. You will get a couple CDAs, which are the precursor to getting the feasibility surveys, which are the precursor to getting site selection visits, which are the precursor to getting money in your bank account.
Beginning of the study, yes.
So clinicaltrials.gov, and by the way, it works for job seekers too. If I were unemployed right now, I'd be on clinicaltrials.gov, 100 emails a day, Monday through Friday, sometimes phone calls, because some of these study managers put their phone numbers on there. And I wouldn't just limit myself to the sponsors. I would look at the sites, because sometimes clinicaltrials.gov lists which sites are participating. And then you can find sites in your area, and I just apply to all of them every day. If you do 500 a week, you're going to get a job interview before the month's over.
Without a doubt.
May not be a job you necessarily like, but when you have no experience and you need to get your foot in the door, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So clinicaltrials.gov is great. Networking with other clinical trial sites. We have a future product we might roll out. Networking with other sites, right? You can go on LinkedIn. There's not too many places online, which is why I want to roll out our product. But try to network with other sites. What I used to do when I ran South Coast Clinical Trials, yes, I will, Bruce. I will type in that link. Which link is it? Clinicaltrials.gov? Which one are you referring to? Let me know which link. When I started with South Coast Clinical Trials, right? I discovered clinicaltrials.gov, so I was on that website constantly. But then I wanted to network with others.
What was your affectionate term for
dialing for dollars?
There you go.
Okay, but now I realized, and actually a monitor told me back then, hey, you should network with other sites. And I said, well, why would my competitors want to help me? And she said, no, silly. You network with other sites outside of your area, because they will want to help you, because they want you to help them too.
Sure. Scratch mine, I scratch yours.
So what did I do? This was before LinkedIn. This was during the MySpace days. And research sites were not on MySpace. What did I do?
I don't know. What did you do?
Well, luckily, Google.com. You must have heard of this site.
What's Google?
Google.com. Google. It's a pretty cool website, right? I typed in, because I was doing psychiatry trials at the time, psychiatry research clinics in, and then I would just go major metro areas that were not in Los Angeles, where I'm located. So Atlanta, New York, Chicago, Houston. I would get tons of Google results. I would call those sites. Most would hang up on me. Most would think I'm a lunatic. But every now and then I got a client or a partner that would share leads with me, as long as I reciprocated.
Or
Initiated and reciprocated, right? So that's another way to do it. Nowadays, you can also go to industry trade shows and do it. So we don't really do this, but you can do it. We don't do it because they are overpriced, and at this point they've become more of a business for the people that run the trade shows, rather than providing value to you, which is another reason why we want to roll out our product maybe someday. Interact with your sales reps. So this is for the research clinics that are associated with a private practice. This is very underrated, underutilized technique that works. So if you are at a research clinic and your PI has a private practice, chances are he or she gets courted and called on by sales reps. And their job is to come in there, promote the latest drug from Eli Lilly, Janssen,
Sure.
Amgen, whoever, right? Tons. They bring lunch, they bring cookies for the front desk people, sure. Right? They're trying to sell you they're trying to convince you to use their product.
And if, like one of the PIs that we work with, if you're in good with that particular pharmaceutical company, they will definitely try and appease you with handing you a trial. Allergan comes to mind.
Key opinion leader.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what if you're not a key opinion leader yet? But what if you're a doctor, like a normal 80% of physicians that have private practice that are busy, that get sales reps coming in all the time, that also happen to do research, right? Well, chances are the PI's busy. We'll meet with the sales rep. They're going to give them their spiel on the drug. He's going to say thank you, eat a sandwich, and then that sales rep will leave, right? The study coordinator will probably go in and grab a sandwich and a soda, go back to their office and eat it, right? Now, what should you do if you're trying to get studies?
Well, you would think you'd want the PI to just happen to mention, do you have anyone I can speak to? I know you're not in the research part of the whatever sponsor this is, but do you have a contact I could reach out to inquire about studies?
Yes. That would be better than 90% of people are doing. So what you would do if you're a site director, if you're the site owner or site director, or even study coordinator, you're not going to rely on your PI to do the selling for you.
I think it's best to come from the PI.
It's always best to come from the PI. But if they're busy or they're not, they only have 2 minutes to meet with that sales rep.
Right.
They're not going to do it. So it's up to you, the site director, site owner, to go talk to that sales rep and say, hey, we do studies. I don't know if you noticed, but we do studies. I know you're not allowed to talk about studies because you're a sales rep. You don't even know what's going on the R&D side. But I want to get introduced to your medical liaison. The medical liaison is the bridge between the research and development and the sales. Every pharma company has regional medical liaisons. Your goal is to get that medical liaison to talk to you, to meet your site, to come meet with your PI, make your PI a key opinion leader, give you study opportunities. Matter of fact, our videographer, finally, when she interviewed an expert for Alzheimer's, she went to the medical liaison for Dr. Kellogg. That's who she interviewed. And she's going to be interviewing her regularly. And this medical liaison's giving us studies.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And that's all it took, right? Get on CRO databases. So go to drugdev.org and sign up your site. That one's simple, free, costs you nothing. You'll get studies, right? Social media, LinkedIn, add these people on LinkedIn, okay? Run Facebook ads, even if you only spend $20 a month just to learn how to use Facebook ads. Target and come up with something creative. Target people at CROs or drug companies that are in charge of site selection. You might not be able to target to that level, but you can definitely target by employees of a company. And you might get lucky and get someone to land on your website and need a site at that time. $20 a month, just play around with it, right? Email. So from clinicaltrials.gov, you're going to just email these people, volume, numbers, and have a good pitch. Have a good email pitch. Have you ever done an email pitch?
You?
Yeah,
sure.
Because yours are more in depth than mine. Mine are very unprofessional, and they still work. Sure. Mine are usually 2 sentences. People always ask me, well, what's a good email pitch, Dan? And I tell them, yours is probably way better than mine. Here's mine. Hi, my name is so-and-so. I work with Dr. So-and-so. He specializes in this and that. He has a huge database of patients. We'd love to do studies with you. Please send me a CDA. That's it, right? Not good at all, but I'm going for volume.
Sure.
Now, we teach interns.
Anything's better than nothing.
Most people do nothing, right? Now, we teach our interns to actually put metrics from past trials. Right. So in 2016, this is how many schizophrenia studies we had. We screened 17. We randomized 12. The sponsors like that, right? But at the same time, they don't want to read an entire book. But so there's a fine line, right? There's got to be a good middle ground between my pitch, which is designed to just get in a lot of people's inbox, versus writing like War and Peace, because no one wants to read that either, right?
Sure.
There's a fine line, so experiment with that. We have a lot of content to cover. Attracting physicians. Well, why don't you talk about attracting physicians, Chris? What do we do before we even get into internet related stuff? How do we get physicians? You can mention a little bit internet.
So, well, we've gone two different routes, right? Internet advertising is one way, and you just put out some information, what you're looking for. PI wise, you can be specifics, indication, specialty of the PI, whatever you're in need of. It's amazing. Advertising does definitely work. Doctors do look at Craigslist and Indeed and many other platforms. So advertising works, and just going out and door knocking works too. Going out, going to private practices and asking to speak with a doctor. Oftentimes they won't have time for you, but they'll make time. Or the gatekeeper, the front desk individual, especially if you bring a box of cookies or something, will make time for you.
From Costco?
Yeah, we've done this a number of times. They will make time for you. You give the front desk personnel some cookies, and they'll make the doctor available for 5 minutes to you.
We've had this happen.
Yeah.
They've told us, no, he's busy. We busted out the cookies. Oh, okay, he has 2 minutes. Yeah, it works. 2 minutes is all you need. Now, here's what I recommend you do. This is, again, just like the sales reps and medical liaison for getting studies. This is something that is very underutilized by research sites because it's right under our noses, but we don't think of doing it. Ask your existing PI, hopefully you have one, or else you don't really have a clinic. Ask your existing PI to refer colleagues, right?
Sure.
So here in San Bernardino, we ask our PI, give us some colleagues that we can go out and talk to. Same thing with our site in Irvine. We ask, hey, who are some colleagues? You know how many colleagues a specialist or a general practitioner have? Because it's a two-way street. They refer to each other.
Definitely helps you get your foot in the door because you can name drop them. Dr. So-and-so sent me by to talk to Dr. So-and-so. Do you think the doctor would have a few minutes to speak with me? And when the receptionist goes and discusses the doctor that you're working with, drops that name, the doctor is a little bit more inquisitive and will give you a minute, at least a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is definitely effective.
The easiest and most effective method, right? Otherwise, Craigslist. Believe it or not, I used to think Craigslist was scammy, like it's only for people looking to hook up with other people before Tinder came around. But it's not. Like, we've actually posted on Craigslist to get physicians, and at the same time, we've used Indeed, where you have to pay for postings, or ladders. There's so many different places you can post, and Craigslist gets us more results, right? Consistently.
Sure.
Not saying those other sites don't work, because they're good. You probably need to do less filtering on those sites to find your right candidate. But Craigslist, you're going to have to do a lot of filtering, weeding out people that are not appropriate for your clinic. There's going to be a lot of doctors with licenses that have been revoked replying to you on Craigslist. So you're going to have to do some due diligence and look up their license in your state, see if their license is valid. You're going to get a lot of foreign physicians that think that you're hiring them when you really need a PI. But you will find physicians that you are looking for. You're going to have to do more filtering out. And what can you expect when it's free, right? Or $25 sometimes to pay for a Craigslist post.
Yep.
But you can go both routes, free and paid post,
Yep,
on Craigslist. Okay. So next thing I want to say, and this is bonus points really, but I think it's the way of the future, is start a blog or a podcast. And this is one of my businesses I'm doing through the Clinical Trials Guru. We're helping sponsors, CROs, research sites start their own podcasts to target either physicians or patients for their studies. And just talk about what your audience is interested in. So if you're trying to target physicians, have a podcast on extra income physicians can make. Right. And just every week or every day, however many times you do podcasting, It should be regular, at least once a week. You should talk about a different aspect of clinical research for the physician so that they get interested in it. They discover you, they trust you, and then they call you, right? That's the way to do it. So that's podcasting. 2 more slides. So attracting patients. So we kind of talked about that already. If you want to run ads, there's really only 2 options you have online. Now you can run traditional newspaper, radio, TV ads. Oftentimes you'll get that reimbursed by the sponsors. So if that's money that you need to use it or lose it, go ahead and use it. We've ran radio ads with Monica before, and they're all over the place. I mean,
radio, TV, pharmacy.
Yeah.
None of them seem real effective. I think online's way more effective.
And that's because people's attention you got to go where the eyeballs are. And the eyeballs are not on radio. Like when a TV ad comes on, people pick up their phones.
Right, or they tune out.
Right.
Remote control's a great invention.
Yeah, or radio. People just change the channel or put on a podcast.
Something else.
Which is what I just talked about. They'll put on a podcast.
Or at very least they just tune it out.
Or they'll tune it out. But online is good. Google and Facebook ads are the way to go. You should experiment with both. There are tons of videos online on how to run a Google ad or a Facebook ad campaign. 57% of total U.S. digital ad market. I think it's higher than that. Social networks like Facebook and YouTube. Definitely you want to be doing some form of content marketing, either making YouTube videos for patients about particular indications. So maybe interview your PI for 10 minutes every week on video. Talk about whatever he or she specializes in and attract those patients from YouTube. And then run that video as a Facebook ad for people who live in your zip code. So there's so many different ways to do it. We've got to constantly be experimenting. And finally, have a website. I mean,
you're talking about her again?
No, not our videographer. Finally, but finally,
okay.
One word. Have a website. So I recommend using Squarespace.com. I get nothing out of it. It's costs, I think, like $20-$30 a month. That includes hosting. And it's super easy to use, looks professional. You can get a capture box where you can, for people who want to learn more, whether they're physicians, patients, or sponsors, they can enter their info. Very few sponsors will actually do that, but patients will. And so having a strong website is key to recruiting more patients because that's where they're looking. Patients are looking online for these things. A well-designed website. So when you run a Facebook or Google ad, you need a link to point them somewhere. It should be your website where they can sign up to learn more, and then someone can contact them the next day. A well-designed website can bring a site hundreds of patients a year, and a free way to do it, if you don't want to spend money on ads, is to have a podcast or a blog and post regularly on this website, because then it's going to show up organically in search results, and people are going to be able to find your website that way. And then social media. Your social media profiles can link back to your website. Chris and I, through our company, help you build and market your website if you're a research site. Even if I want to go as far as saying, even if you're a job seeker, you should have a website of your own with a profile, who you are. You know, my name is Dan Sfera. This is dansfera.com.
I would agree with that. If you have a lot of content on Facebook, you don't want people getting the wrong impression of you about.
Right.
You know, if you really don't have a presence online in any fashion, I don't necessarily think that's going to do anything for you. But then again, I mean, most employers do look online, and I guess they would see something then.
Well, who did we see yesterday? Yesterday, one of our clients got a study, and the CRO looked like a person. And we clicked on the link, and it's sure enough, it's this person, a one-man CRO. In this case, a one-woman CRO.
Right.
And she had a website of who she is, all her services. I think if you're a job seeker, you should do the same thing.
Yeah, I guess so. I never really thought of it, but after I ran it through my head, that makes sense.
It's so cost effective. I mean, if you want to do it for free, you can. There's plenty of places you can create a free website.
Yep.
If you want to pay and make it look a little more classy, doesn't cost much.
Right.
So do that. But definitely, if you're a site, have a website. We got a question. What do you advise concerning a potential site owner partnering with? Who would they be partnering with? Either partnering with a PI or partnering with, I mean, I'm assuming it's partnering with a PI, and you need to either pay them as independent contractor, an employee, or, what do you advise on concerning a potential site owner partnering with an existing site owner? What do you think about this, Chris?
Why? Why? I mean, why?
Think of why. So if you're offering nothing, or let's say, so you say potential site owner, so you're telling me you don't have a site right now, and someone who owns a site, you want to partner with them.
So what's the benefit to this site that's already established? I don't understand. Where's the benefit?
Yeah, where's the benefit for them? I'm assuming it's going to be you finding and attracting physicians and studies, and then they can piggyback that off of them. If you know this person, maybe it's worth a try. If you don't, I wouldn't do it. It really depends. What are the pros and cons? Like, what are the value that they're going to give you? What are the values that you're going to give them? Always put yourself in another person's shoes. Why are they wanting to do this? Why would they want to do this? Why should you want to do this? What can go wrong? What can go right? Pros and cons, right? Okay, so that's it. Now, well, why don't you give them a rundown of what we offer, service-wise?
Service-wise.
And then maybe potential future products.
Well, that's much better coming from you, but
just let them know. I got tired talking too much.
You never talk too much. But anyhow, we have a number of clients throughout the United States. We even have a few clients in other countries, or we have in the past. I don't know if we currently do. Do we have any clients from other countries right now? I don't think we do. Anyhow, so what we offer is for $1,000 a month. We will do everything we can remotely for your site. So we will reach out to sponsors and promote your site. We will search clinicaltrials.gov for you. We will complete feasibility questionnaires for you if you would like, though I don't necessarily recommend that for established sites. But for newer sites or completely new to the industry, definitely recommend that we complete your feasibility questionnaires. We'll negotiate your budgets and contracts. That's very time consuming, and we do a good job of it. So we will do that for you. We will prepare your source documents, provide you with SOPs. Anything we can do remotely, we will do for you. To hire somebody to do this, all of what we'll do for you cost at least $3,000 a month, if not more. And it's only $1,000 a month. And then we have some new products coming out. Well, one in particular. We're going to start a networking site, which what's the price point? $29?
$29 a month. Yeah, let them know.
So for $29 a month, we're going to have a site for sites to get together and discuss.
No, that's not for sites.
Oh, I'm sorry, not sites. For
research professionals.
For research professionals, and discuss sponsors who may be hiring, job opportunities, and we'll be posting job leads on there. You can discuss what problems you're maybe encountering at your job. A lot of different things are going to be open for conversation on the site. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, it will be a confidential, meaning not visible to search engine channel, Slack channel. And then we're going to roll out a comparable one, maybe, if there's enough demand for the research site owners. And we also do our consulting services, $1,000 a month. We help your site with anything you need help with. Primarily, it's getting studies, doing feasibility surveys, doing your budgets, contracts. We also have a CRA Academy. Right now, we're in our August Academy, Our next one will start in November. So go to the craacademy.com to check that out. If you're interested in some of our site services, go to our Get More Studies page on the clinicaltrialsguru.com. And anything else you want to add, Chris?